Thank you Asus and Snapdragon for sponsoring today's video. Quick little reminder, we're still running that $500 giveaway. If you guys want to participate, watch the makeover video. Don't forget to subscribe, like this video. We're trying to make it to 1 million subs before GTA 6 comes out. Anyways, enjoy the show. I'd be lying if I told you this has been the easiest thing ever. A few months ago, I decided that this was going to be my daily laptop, and since my switch, the reality for me is that I haven't been able to code at all. Don't get me wrong though, planning with this has been amazing. The portability it offers when traveling is excellent. The video editing and photo editing capabilities have been super reliable, but I still fight with it in order to make it feel like a laptop. The good news is that most workarounds work. The bad news is that you're always a few steps behind what a laptop can do, and so for me, I think this is more of a laptop alternative, not a laptop replacement. I think the best way for me to showcase that is by simply taking you guys with me into my journey. Here is my 4-month experience. This is it, my 4-month review with the iPad. The iPad is like one of those pieces of tech that if used right, it's so powerful. And more than ever, I've realized that the iPad really is a laptop alternative more than a laptop replacement. But that's just me. You see, for the past 4 months, I've realized that for a lot of people, this can be the end of the road. Life with an iPad has been challenging, but it's been so good. For me, this is the machine I've used on my setup to consume content, deal with my finances, edit on the go, administrate the business wherever I go. It's so capable at doing a lot. I started using an iPad when I was studying engineering a few years ago, and I was able to fall in love with the workflow once more. Even though I don't use GoodNotes anymore or any sort of student app, I use Notes extensively to plan our trips, Freeform to plan our makeovers, Notion and Milanote for our logistics. The iPad, unlike the MacBook, allows me to do this with ease. And so life with an iPad has been a new adventure, it really has. I decided to take on the challenge so you guys can go out there and make the best decision for yourself. Look, the iPad for me has been like a bigger iPhone, except more powerful with a pen. I can attach a keyboard and mouse and connect this to a monitor, yet it's still smaller than most laptops. It's portable, easy to carry wherever I go. I've been everywhere around the world with the iPad, and although the need of having a laptop sometimes has been there, other times I've been able to manage, but for this device to feel as portable as a laptop, I've realized you really need to buy the add-ons, the adapters, keyboard, the pen with a pen holder. Eventually though, you realize that your setup has become more expensive than a base model MacBook Air, and with all this, I mean, it's not the most perfect laptop. I remember on a few occasions using it on my lap was challenging. All the weight the device has transfers to the back of it and it struggles at balancing itself. I think it's my biggest pet peeve with it. There's also no way to fold the keyboard to draw on it with ease. Because my pen holder, my setup sort of like falls apart when I take the keyboard off. I think this would be a nice feature to have since it would allow me to use the pen on the go with ease. I sort of find myself always using it as is, and it's not the best experience, especially when planning trips. But physically, I think those are the two main things I've been struggling with. Other than that, I'm not sure why my pen has left scratch marks on my iPad. It's kind of very odd. But on the other hand, the iPad has stayed impeccable, and I've thrown this around. I stored it however I want to store it. It's been in a car when I was driving through the insane California heat for hours, and it's never ever let me down. So yeah, I mean, after all the trips I've been through, the keyboard is impeccable, the body is 99% like new, and the screen, I mean, it's a miracle it has no scratches. This thing really holds up. I'm a big fan. Now, since I've gotten the iPad, my setup, literally this setup has been practically the same. I haven't changed anything. This here's the Magic Keyboard for iPad Pro. It's an aluminum built with some suede where the tablet rests. I do want to say that over time, the rubber material on this has gotten quite dirty, but nowhere near as dirty as my other iPads, which is really good. It's got a USB-C connector for pass-through charging, but no data transfer, with a trackpad that delivers MacBook-like haptic touches. Yeah, that's cool. And multi-touch gestures, that's one thing that really has made me feel like I've been using a MacBook this whole time. You pair that experience with this proper function row and it really does feel like you've got yourself a full-blown laptop. My complaints with it, the annoying weight balance it delivers when the iPad is fully folded, not the best, it's annoying and even worse on a lap. All of this does come at a cost and it isn't cheap. Their Apple Pencil 2 as well, it's been great to plan trips with, and I've dedicated some time using freeform boards where we've been able to plan setups. And the most important add-on here, if you are going to rock this setup, a $20 metal pencil holder. $20 that has completely changed my experience when it comes to opening this up. It's so worth it and it keeps your pencils secure. I know we've got Find My with Gen 2, but the issue is that if you ever drop this on a plane and that plane leaves, well, Find My is no longer useful in it. This setup is perfect, but also imperfect. I do wish there was a way to fold this so the drawing experience could be a lot better. And if it's not too much to ask, an SD card reader would be nice so I don't need to bring my small SD card adapter everywhere with me. Look, at least honestly, the wobble with this hinge is very minimal. It's never ever bothered me at all, but having an iPad for everything really isn't the most ideal thing. In many use case scenarios, having the ability to work faster comes in super handy. For many people, having a full OS, whether it's Mac OS or Windows, significantly improves the turnaround time for work. I do remember there was an instance during my trip to Berlin where my iPad had died. I had left it on during the night playing a podcast, and because I had a backup in hand from Asus, I decided to use the PZ13 during my trip as well. The ProArt PZ13 powered by a Snapdragon X Plus just reminds me of the iPad so much, but with a complete OS. So think about this here like an alternative for those who really like the tablet form factor but with a proper operating system. Now, haven't used a laptop as a daily for work in a while has reminded me why I'm personally not ready to make the full transition. The cool thing about this particular device from Asus is the fact that it uses the new Asus Pen 2.0 stylus, very similar to what the iPad has to offer. Thanks to Snapdragon, the battery life on this is incredible. I remember I had used it a lot to transfer files from our shoots, do some emails and web browsing. I used it a lot to go over PDFs. Within this span of 2 days, I was easily able to pull more than 10 hours of work on it. It's a super comfortable experience. On top of that, with the integrated Qualcomm Adreno GPU, you really get responsive graphics and an enjoyable experience in apps like Lightroom and DaVinci. As a first-hand user with Snapdragon X Plus, it really does deliver great performance in such a little device. Compared to something like the AMD Ryzen 7 8840U, the single thread performance versus the power consumption graph is actually impressive. For me, it was obvious when I gave DaVinci a try and the device was outputting a smooth experience while still maintaining a moderate rate of battery life dissipation. Very much like the iPad in my opinion. Now, the build quality is very iPad-like. This does have an intelligent cooling system, a slim CNC unibody design, proper connectivity with Thunderbolt 4 and an SD card reader. It also comes with a detachable magnetic keyboard, a magnetic cover stand, and its side profile is slim with around a total of 9mm of thickness. Very similar to the iPad. As a whole, this is a tablet powered by an integrated 8-core Qualcomm Oryon CPU with a Qualcomm Hexagon NPU running 45 tops and powers the latest Copilot Plus PCs. It also powers a 13-inch 3K OLED touchscreen with Corning Gorilla Glass NBT, which is easy to detach from the keyboard and enjoy any type of content since it has 100% DCI-P3 color gamut and VESA Display HDR True Black 500 with very responsive touch feedback that's provided a smooth experience for me. Like I said, battery life is incredible. Between some Chrome, Notion, and emails, just within an hour, the battery dropped by 10%. In about an hour or so, we've got the press conferences with Qualcomm, which is going to be interesting because it's all going to be based on the chips that these laptops are powered by, which are Snapdragon chips. Very interesting. As time goes by, drivers are going to be updated, more softwares are going to be supported. These laptops are set to be really good on battery life, which is something I'm currently testing on mine. Very interesting. It's neat. Anyways, I don't want to be late. It's time to get there. Qualcomm at IFA had announced the new CPU in this machine, the Snapdragon X Plus. Very much built for on-device productivity with its advanced AI camera and audio capabilities, offering 5G and Wi-Fi 7 with HBS multi-link for lightning, fast and jitter-free connectivity, and the ability to reinforce your security with Qualcomm Secure Processing Unit, supporting Microsoft Pluton TPM, total memory encryption, and Microsoft Secure Core PC support. Look, if you want a proper laptop replacement, I really suggest you check out the PZ13. I'll leave a link down below. And I say proper because my biggest pet peeve with the iPad is establishing proper workflows. It's been a battle, but I've very much mastered it, I think. Knowing how to use Stage Manager is a game changer. You can have up to 4 windows stacked in a group of 4. It makes it super easy for me to transfer files from one location to another within files. To give you an idea of SSD speeds, 6 gigabytes can take about a minute to transfer, so files for me is one of the apps I use the most when I'm on the go. The only thing I do wish I could do for my own workflow would be running apps of an SSD. When it comes to other apps, I do like turning off Stage Manager. I usually split screen apps like Notion and Word or Google Docs, which is great. But one thing I've realized about word processing is that even the smallest stupid of things can slow you down. For example, a common issue I run into with Notion is that if I double click on a case to copy and paste it, it always appears as a pop-up on top. So I have to drag my pointer up and highlight it when it comes to pasting it on something like Google Docs. On a laptop like the PZ13, you can simply double click or triple click the case and it highlights everything which is ready to be copied and pasted. Then on Docs, I can triple click to highlight a whole entire sentence. I can only click and work word by word, which is annoying. I have to physically scroll and drag the pointer to highlight full sentences. And I know it's dumb, but these are the type of things that just slow down your workflow and it just becomes quite annoying. But as a whole, being able to know how to integrate Stage Manager into your workflow, it is a game changer. Of course, in a perfect world, the best thing would be to bypass Stage Manager. Sometimes I did wish it would let me open as many windows as I want in a single space and let me snap them to the side like you can on Windows or Mac OS. It's a common occurrence people run into, and I know a lot of people wished it would work like so. For me, I get more frustrated about it when I use this on my setup at home, believe it or not. Playing and resizing windows when Stage Manager is enabled, it's not the easiest of things. I think this is another occurrence where your workflow will be slowed down and tested. Like sometimes, think about it, you just want to get stuff done. I usually sit at a desk when I want to script or check my finances. The cool thing though with the iPad when it comes to checking your finances is that you don't necessarily need the iPad OS app. Most financial institutions will let you have access to the desktop version through the web. I also enjoy opening up Excel with this, just so I'm able to go back and forth between my transactions, my spreadsheet, and any other tabs I need to access on Chrome. So that works really well. As you can see, there are many overlapping functionalities with a laptop, but sometimes there are these weird little finicky things that just slow down your workflow. And Excel is very limited on iPad OS. It works really well, it's fast and snappy, but as soon as you want to explore more like macros, play with plugins, because say your company uses Dynamic 365, forget about it. The workaround a lot of people use is using their web apps. They do require an internet connection and won't be touch friendly, but if you use your iPad with mouse and keyboard, you can achieve a desktop level office experience. Other than consuming content when I'm on the go, I'm always using Google Keep along with Google Docs. Word, if needed, works well offline. DaVinci to sort and color grade clips on a timeline is absolutely amazing. Checking out my itinerary within Notes is great. I often book my flights and hotels with the iPad. It really is my lifestyle device in that regard. As I've been going through life, I've been making the best I can out of my workflows, that's for sure. It's been challenging, although weirdly enough, not as challenging as integrating my whole entire workflow with an Android device. The integration with my S24 Ultra in the past and currently my Pixel has been actually
pretty good. The main reason is because I'm heavily invested in the Google ecosystem. However, my workarounds are far from perfect, but they work for me. The thing I miss the most about not having an iPhone is AirDrop. I've tried things like connecting my Android device directly to the iPad and set it to file transfer. However, the Files app won't recognize it, and as far as I'm aware of, there's no app that bridges the connection between iPadOS and Android. So what I like doing is using Google Drive. Google Drive is the bridge I use to send content across all my ecosystems. It works really well. However, when I'm on the plane, I need internet connection, so I cannot use it. Of course, my last alternative is using an SSD as a way to transport files from an Android device to an iPad, and it works really well, which is good. When it comes to Notes for me is the app I use to plan my trips. It works really nicely and it allows me to share these easily with Jan, who uses an iPhone. Now, the only way for me to access them through the Pixel is through the cloud online, which again, it's decently good. However, an internet connection is a must and there's no way of getting away with it. So for the most part, I tend to use Google Keep when not planning trips. It works well, it's easy to use, and it doesn't let me down when I need it. Browsing, Google Chrome is my go-to for the most part. So because my account syncs a lot of information, that means that my MacBooks, my iPads, Windows PCs, and Android devices all sync the same. I'm also able to sync tabs, which is amazing, and it comes in useful. I mean, for me, this is it. I'm still trying to figure out how to sync all my photos to Google Photos because that's something I've been struggling with, but for now, I haven't figured anything out. And before you ask, yes, I do miss iMessage, but I'm excited about RCS coming soon to iOS 18, and regardless, I hate to sync my messages to my laptops and my iPads just because I feel like when I'm on my laptop, I want that disconnection from my phone. Nevertheless, I do miss the Apple ecosystem because everything works so well, but I also do enjoy trying out new things and figuring out ways to make it all work together, which is why I've practically been using iPadOS for everything in my life. Look, when I came back from Berlin, well, first of all, my screen needed some deep cleaning. I mean, it was filled with fingerprints. I use Wish products to clean my screen, by the way. But second of all, I had to literally dump more than 100 gigabytes of footage that I had stored locally into my iPad to my local server. The thing that makes the Files app feel like a complete files manager for me is the fact that Windows shared folders are recognized by the iPad on the local network. Traversing the file structure is insanely quick and easy, and with Stage Manager, it's made my file transfers quick to do. Transferring 118 gigs of footage takes about an hour on the iPad, which is really nice. I truly think Apple have made the Files app much better. Of course, it still lacks, but we're getting there. I would just love support for Android devices. Now, the OS is not perfect at all. Office 365 apps sometimes just bug. I've tried accessing some work PowerPoints when I was abroad, and it really doesn't work well when viewing shared presentations from an organization. I literally had to use the PZ13 to do so. I've heard from other people that PowerPoint crashes during presentations. Office 365 apps are, of course, not complete. Stage Manager really isn't for everyone. Better mouse support would be nice. Zoom does finally, however, allow you to share the entire desktop screen, so that's nice. But then, support for coders is just non-existent. iPadOS is good, but it's still limited for a lot of people. And for those who extensively use their laptops for work, you're gonna realize that it takes those extra steps to get stuff done. Excel is actually a great example of that, and even programmers that use code spaces, sometimes there are little bugs within those apps that makes the experience unreliably unusable. But as a creative, it's been able to get me out of tricky situations. In Berlin, I did have to re-edit bits and pieces of our Soundcore sponsor for the MacBook Air last week. I was able to edit that on DaVinci, color grade it, and package it all up to send it to the client. Just the fact that I've been able to transfer all my shortcuts, my color grades, edit quickly, and export all within DaVinci is unbelievably the best experience I've had on a machine like this. Okay, a 2-minute clip took about a minute to export.
it's pretty good considering this is a 422 log file, color graded, and there's a bunch of stuff going on that time. Now this is a draft for a sponsor that I need to get out ASAP. What I'm going to do is that I'm just going to split the screens, put files on the right, Google Drive on the left, drag it to Google Drive, open Superhuman, just send an email, share the link with them, and that's it. Don't get me wrong though, iPad can easily connect to a dock at home, a dock that connects your entire audio setup, keyboard, mouse, monitor. It's so easy to connect all of it and set up your displays the way you want them to be. But the iPad is still very heavily dependent on its ability to deliver on its hardware, meaning that, for example, Control Center doesn't show on the external display. It's really annoying, especially when I was using my X-Real glasses to consume movies on the plane. You cannot see the Control Center on your external monitor. You can also only record video on the iPad screen, and you cannot record an entire desktop workflow on the external monitor, which on top of that, for screenshots, you can't choose which display you can take a photo of. Playing with Stage Manager is just a bit slow and complicated. Dragging and resizing windows really is time consuming, but honestly I think it's mainly because that cursor really isn't as accurate as a laptop. I also did wish the icons within Stage Manager lined up with the screen. Look, I know it's a lot to complain about, but as a desktop device, it's still very limited. However, it's miles ahead of what we used to have back then. And battery life, honestly, I truly think this is the best device in the world that can provide so much power in a laptop-like form factor for such a long period of time. I mean, it's actually ridiculous how good battery life is. Let me give you guys a few examples. Keeping track of battery life for you guys is something I love doing. On the plane going to Berlin, I was fully charged at around 94%. I put my X-Real glasses on and watched a full movie. By 7:55 p.m. I was at around 76%. After watching a movie on my downloaded Netflix library, of course. Eventually, throughout that day, I completely depleted my battery. The next morning, I charged my iPad and it took about 50 minutes to get a 50% charge, which I'm always so happy with when I'm on the go. I did eventually charge it all the way to 100%, and during my 4-day trip, that was the only time I had charged my iPad. After that first charge, my iPad went through some word processing apps, entering emails, sorting footage, color grading clips on DaVinci, watching movies in the evening. I remember on Thursday morning at 1 a.m. when I was booking my flight, all the way to Thursday afternoon at around 1 p.m, the iPad was running at 58%. And like I said, I had done a lot up to then. Friday on the plane going back home, I had around 45%. I was editing on Lightroom, editing some captions for Instagram on Google Docs with Google Keep, color grading more clips on DaVinci, and watched a few episodes of Chaos. By 5:45 p.m, I was running at around 33%. That same day, I got back from Berlin and copied 118 gigabytes of footage to our server, which took about an hour, by the way, and left me with 14% at 2:42 p.m. Eastern Time, which would be 8 p.m. in Berlin. That's almost 2 full days of battery life on this machine. That's pretty freaking insane. I definitely give it an A+, summa cum laude type of stuff. Now, what have I been able to conclude from this experiment? Well, for me, this is definitely not a laptop replacement. It's more of a secondary device you can add to your life, and I'm more than happy to do so during my trips. But I'm personally going back to my MacBook Air for now. This reminded me of how much I missed having a laptop. I miss coding and working on projects when I have time on my hands, and I sadly can't do it with this. Look, a lot of people like me will love using their iPads as a second screen with Sidecar. They will love using it for planning and writing, for more leisure activities like reading, gaming, or watching videos when traveling. Like I said, its form factor makes it very useful in many situations, especially if you need the space. I think for me at home, it will serve more as a device to enjoy my breakfast with, control my smart home and speakers, emails, web browsing, and edit documents on it. This has pretty much been my little science project. It really was a science project. It was challenging, but I think throughout the 4 months, I've been able to learn and fall in love with a lot of new things. And it made me realize that I'm personally not ready to make this switch. However,
maybe this made you realize that you are ready for it, mainly if you're looking at it from the perspective of a personal laptop rather than a work laptop replacement. I'll leave you guys with this. I really hope you've enjoyed it. Like and subscribe if you enjoy these type of videos. They take forever to make, and I will see you guys next Sunday. Thanks for watching. Take care.